Well, we're driving to Ely still.
We are. It's a long road.
It's a long road through the middle of nowhere. But this time, we're going to take a look at the rebirth of locomotive number 81.
Right.
This is sure a beautiful locomotive.
Oh, they've done it up nicely, too.
My first reaction to the green boiler jacket was a little put off, but now that the color is kind of set in, I really, really like the green. When they first shot it on here, I thought it was way too bright. But that happens with paint. It changes color after it dries.
Well, and a little coal dust doesn't keep it too bright.
And it shows off its weathering really nicely. Anyway, it's a beautiful consolidation.
Yes.
And I am just really taken by this beautiful locomotive.
Me too.
It turned out so nice. So this is last September when they first put fire to it. This is Mark Bassett.
Yes.
He runs the whole railroad here, and this is the shop crew. Really, really nice guys. And this is John Ramash.
Uh-huh.
And he rebuilds locomotives for a living.
He does.
and he was giving his expertise on the whole situation. But this was very first fire in the locomotive.
Isn't that cool?
After all these years. This was also the hydro test. They did it all together. I've not seen it done that way, but they completely filled the boiler to the top with water, put fire in it, and brought it up to pressure to make sure nothing was going to leak.
Right.
And worked out well. Boiler checked out fine, and now they were ready to put the locomotive together. And here was our next trip out there. And speaking of putting the locomotive together, at first I thought, man, this thing is ready to run down the track. Pistons are all in, side rods are in place, but the tender is not hooked up. There's a few things going on here.
Oh, dear.
But I think if they'd have pulled out on the throttle, and maybe they did secretly, it would have rolled down the track just fine at this point. But this was when we first saw that green boiler jacket, and it was like, whoa, that's a bit extreme, but now I love it. And as the 2021 season draws to an end, they're shopping two of the other locomotives.
Right.
93 here is in fine shape, and they've been running it all season. But now that 81 is operating, they decided to pull this guy into the shop for a valve job.
I see.
Valves and piston rings. It doesn't need a lot of work, but they just they want to plus it, as Walt Disney would have said. They want to make it better for next year. But as you can see, it's been running all season.
Oh, sure, yes.
And has been the backbone of the railroad now. Because 81 has been down. Anyway, 93 has been pulled into the shop.
Right.
For just some minor things. It's always just a little bit alarming when you open up the valve body on a locomotive.
I was alarmed.
Yeah, I looked at what the heck is going on, but these things are insulated with a refractory cement.
Oh.
That's just sort of troweled in there, and then the metal outside sheeting is placed over that. But inside here are the piston valves that actually run the thing. And in order to bore out the cylinders for the new rings, they needed a boring machine, a cylinder boring machine, and they found one.
Oh, good.
And so there it is. An Underwood cylinder boring machine.
I bet they didn't get that out of J.C. Whitney.
No, and they wouldn't say exactly how they came into this thing, but the Underwood boring machine was a staple in steam locomotive shops, needless to say, because you'd have to go in there and hone out the cylinder and make it ready for new rings. I know Ed in Cheyenne, we got to actually watch him do this
Right.
on the front engine for the big boy. Oh, and then back here in the back shops, we found where they've been pouring Babbitt.
Oh,
And I've always loved the process of pouring this insanely soft metal. In this case, these are the wheel bearings for the tender.
yeah. How that holds up, I'll never know.
The stuff melts at just like 400 degrees, and it's always packed with a lot of grease.
Yes, that's probably what keeps it from melting.
Well, somehow this metal is able to hold on to the lubricant. And then also the grates are here. And I don't know
Yes.
if these are out of 93 or something else, but there's some minor damage here.
Yes, there's a couple of them that's melted. Something got hot.
So I don't know if they're addressing that, but it's interesting to see what the firebox grates actually look like.
That one needs to be fixed.
That one's got a small melting problem.
Yes.
But they have an entire foundry here so that they can do this kind of work.
Right.
If they choose to. They have everything they need. It's just a question of what really needs to be done and what can they live with. And when the question comes up, you always ask Dirt the cat,
That's right.
because this is his shop.
Exactly. He knows it all.
He's the foreman here
Yes.
in the shops. And if
Right.
you have any questions about how to proceed, Dirt will explain it
Right. Right after lunch.
right after lunch. At any rate, the railroad has a mandate, self-imposed mandate, that they will always have at least one of their steam locomotives running. And so finishing up with 81 allowed them to shop 93 this winter. But both locomotives should be running in the spring.
Yes.
And here's our old friend,
Yes.
number 40. And number 40 will not be ready next spring.
No, not quite.
Number 40 is down for its 1472 inspection, as they call it. Every 1472 days, you have to completely tear the boiler apart and do a full inspection and rebuild of the locomotive.
Right.
If there's any of those days you didn't run it, then you don't have to do that. Anyway, 1472 days,
No more, no less.
and it takes a couple of years to do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And so 40 is going to be down for a little while. But the good news is when 40 comes out of its 1472 inspection, it'll be like brand new.
Exactly.
Again,
Yes.
because it's been through this before.
Yes.
But in the meantime, they'll be using 93 and 81 to run the railroad. But isn't 40 spectacular?
Oh, it's a beautiful locomotive.
Anyway, 40 and 93 have been the backbone of this railroad for the last few
They
years,
sure have.
while 81 has been going through a complete restoration. But 40 will be back.
Yes.
And in the meantime, it's sort of sad to see it in this condition,
Right.
but it's necessary. Anyway, 81 is done.
There it is.
And there's number 81, ready to go out on the high iron.
nice new locomotive.
Yep, no, she's in good shape. She rolls a little too well.
Yeah. Coast right on by it.
Oh yeah, she's doing really good. We're gonna go sit down by the mechanic shop for a while, just because we're way ahead of schedule.
Okay, yeah, because we're on the 4:30 train.
Yeah. If it's down there, the crew's allowed off, and we can kind of relax. If it's back here, we always have to have the crew with the engine. So. Nope. She's running good. She's doing well.
I'm not sure when 81 last ran. It was retired in 1960 and donated to the White Pine County Museum, but I'm not sure if they continued to use it up to that point or just when it last fired, but somewhere before 1960.
Wow,
And here it is running again.
that's cool.
So Nevada Northern 81 is a Baldwin consolidation. That's a 280 wheel configuration. It was built in 1917
Wow.
and has been operating exclusively on the Nevada Northern. It was
That
built
is
for
neat.
them. They paid $23,000 for it.
Ooh, that was a bit of money back then.
And then, as we said, it was donated to the White Pine County Museum in 1960. This is where I first saw it, right here.
Oh, neat.
The old original main line ended here at Highway 93, same as the number on the locomotive.
Yes.
Anyway, there had been a road crossing here on the original main line, but the main line at this point ran from the shops down to this point, only about 3/4 of a mile. And both 81 and 93 were brought down here to the museum and parked.
Oh,
And like I say, that's how I first saw both locomotives. I never thought that we'd be seeing both of them running again at some point.
yeah, usually they just park them for good.
And that's an end of them. So here we are 60 years later.
And there it is.
And there it is, looking brand new
Yes, and running.
and running perfectly. That is just so wonderful to see these locomotives being restored this way.
Right.
You know, Ely is off the beaten path,
It sure is.
but boy, is it worth driving out here.
It really is. I like going out to Ely.
Yeah, it's because of the nature of the highways and the way they wind around, it's about equal distant from Las Vegas, Reno, or Salt Lake City.
Yeah, all crossroads go through Ely. Yeah.
There was a time when Ely was this major crossroads, the junction of 93 and 50. But now it's just off the beaten path.
Right.
But having this railroad out here makes it well worth the drive out.
Right. And the community sure supports it.
Boy, don't they just. It's just, it's really wonderful to see the rebirth of Ely and the rebirth of these locomotives.
Right.
Anyway, let's go for a ride.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Now the cobwebs here are not because they don't clean the train.
Oh yeah, sometimes our house ends up looking like that.
This is because the train later this evening is going to be used as the haunted ghost train.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And that was, of course, last week's show.
Right.
And what fun that was. But earlier in the day, 81 took it out for a steam excursion.
Right.
A smoky steam excursion.
That was a bit smoky, yes.
Well, we are approaching Keystone Junction,
Right.
the location of the mines, and the current end of track here. It used to run up into the mines, but now the trains up Robinson Canyon only go as far as Keystone.
Right.
But pretty soon they'll be running steam in the opposite direction to the newly restored depot at McGill.
Oh, won't that be fun?
Anyway, they are constantly upgrading and adding new and wonderful things here.
Right.
And restoring the line out to McGill will be really wonderful. And really soon, they're going to have 3 operating steam locomotives.
Oh, that will be just awesome.
Well, this has been fun.
Right.
The rollout of 81. If you haven't been over to the channel, please pop over to the channel and binge watch.
Exactly.
And if you're not a subscriber, all is not lost. You can do that right about now by clicking on the blue button here.
Right.
Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring, and we will see you here on Tuesday with something fun.